The time is 8:45 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Dilini Gunawardena and read by Tilani Pires. The headlines: Sri Lanka and Iran agree to further enhance bilateral ties in multiple areas. A composite draft bill will be prepared on child rights. Feasible areas to develop Sri Lanka's offshore wind potential are identified. The Indian Ocean Rim Association Day 2024 will be held in Sri Lanka. The Cabinet green-lights the use of English language in certain courts of the island. And on international news, the US called for a temporary ceasefire in UN text. And on sports news, cricket, the Legends Cricket Trophy 2024 is to be held in Sri Lanka. An extensive discussion was held today between the Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri and his Iranian counterpart Dr. Hossein Amir Abdullahian, who is on an official visit to Colombo. The parties discussed several matters of concern, including further strengthening their cooperation in multiple areas, including the energy sector. Minister Sabri said that they agreed to work closely and enhance their diplomatic partnership further. Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Hossein Amir Abdullahian arrived in Sri Lanka on Monday night and was welcomed by State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tariq Balsouria. The Iranian Foreign Minister is in Sri Lanka for a 3-day official visit. In response to growing concerns over the protection and welfare of children in Sri Lanka, the Cabinet has approved a proposal calling for the preparation of the composite draft bill on child rights. This was disclosed by Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena. The relevant proposal was submitted by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Women, Child Affairs and Social Empowerment. Accordingly, the legal draftsman will be directed to prepare the Composite Act, enshrining the rights declared in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in addition to the existing legal provisions pertaining to the protection of child rights. The necessary steps for the development of Sri Lanka's offshore wind potential in stages through private sector investments by developing economies of scale. The government revealed that the north, west and southeast regions of Sri Lanka have been identified as areas with high potential to generate electricity through large-scale offshore wind power plants. The areas have been recognized based on the results of a feasibility study on the development of offshore wind recently conducted by World Bank consultants. Accordingly, the Cabinet has approved the proposal presented by the Minister of Power and Energy to increase the contribution of large-scale renewable energy in the country and to take the necessary steps in this regard. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Minister of Foreign Affairs says that action is being taken to hold the 2024 Indian Ocean Rim Association Day at the Golf Face grounds on the 10th of March with the participation of diplomatic missions of member countries, partner states and a large number of school students from all provinces of the island. The Indian Ocean Rim Association is a dynamic intergovernmental organization aimed at strengthening regional cooperation and sustainable development within the Indian Ocean region through its 23 member states and 12 dialogue partners. The theme for 2024, Iora Day, is a sustainable Indian Ocean for future generations. The Cabinet has granted approval to take the necessary measures for the English language to be considered for conducting legal proceedings and maintaining records in certain courts in Sri Lanka. The government states that particulars in the commerce sphere related to commercial activities are mainly used in the English language and require considerable cost and time to translate those contents into the Sinhala language. Due to that, an extended period to settle commercial disputes take place, which leads to disadvantages when obtaining entrepreneurs, and this situation has also affected the position of Sri Lanka to be in a lower rank in the ease of doing business ratings, which envisage the ability to conduct enterprises in the country. As a remedial measure, it has been recognized as appropriate to issue an order by the Minister of Justice with the approval of the Cabinet and on par with the provisions of Statute 24(4) of the Constitution permitting the use of the English language concerning all the activities in recognized courts or legal records and proceedings precisely mentioned thereupon. Accordingly, the Cabinet has approved the proposal submitted by the Minister of Justice to take necessary action in this regard. That ends local news to now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Janaka Vakkumara has been sworn in as the State Minister of Provincial Councils, Local Government and Environment before President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo today. The President's Media Division reported that this appointment supplements his existing role as the State Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
And on Watch Light tonight, the Education Ministry emphasizes that the Education Ministry will issue letters to admit students to grade 1, 5 and 6 for the year 2024. In order to enroll students in grade 1 of schools, applications should be forwarded to the respective schools according to the circular issued by the Education Ministry. The principals of the respective schools will conduct interviews and enroll the selected students to grade 1. Meanwhile, admission of students to grade 6 in national schools is made solely on the basis of the scores obtained by students at the grade 5 scholarship examination. In the year 2024, the relevant applications should also be forwarded to the respective schools to admit students to intermediate classes other than grades 1, 5 and 6, including GCE advanced level. If there are vacancies in those schools, the principals will select suitable students after conducting interviews. That came to you in Watchlight. Coming up, World News. World News headlines first. U.S. call for temporary ceasefire in UN text. The ICJ hearings on Israel's occupation of Palestine continue for the second day. Julian Assange appeals in most important press freedom case in the world. The U.S. has proposed a draft resolution at the UN Security Council which calls for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza. It has also warned Israel against invading the overcrowded city of Rafah. The U.S. has previously avoided the word ceasefire during UN votes on the war, but President Joe Biden has made similar comments. However, the U.S. plans to veto another draft resolution from Algeria which calls for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. More than 1 million displaced Palestinians, who represent about half of Gaza's population, are crammed into Rafah after being forced to seek shelter there. Oral proceedings continue at the International Court of Justice on the legal consequences of Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories. Over 50 states and at least 3 international organizations will address judges at the United Nations top court. A non-binding legal opinion is expected after months of deliberation by the judges. Palestinian representatives presented their arguments on the legal consequences of Israel's occupation of the West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza Strip yesterday. They argued the occupation is illegal and must be brought to an immediate, unconditional and total end. Israel is not attending the hearings but has sent a 5-page written statement saying an advisory opinion would be harmful to attempts to resolve the conflict because questions posed by the UN General Assembly are prejudiced. London's High Court has scheduled 2 days of hearings on Tuesday and Wednesday to decide whether WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange may appeal a United States request for extradition to stand trial on espionage charges. Assange's wife, Stella, says that those charges carry maximum penalties of 175 years, but the real danger is that he may suffer an inadvertent death penalty instead. If Wednesday's decision goes against Assange, his legal team plans to appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. Though a favourable ruling there may not come in time to stop an extradition, Assange will not attend court due to illness. Back to the World News headlines. The U.S. call for temporary ceasefire in UN text. The ICJ hearings on Israel's occupation of Palestine continue for the second day. Julian Assange appeals in most important press freedom case in the world. That ends World News. Moving on with development news, the Sri Lanka-Pakistan Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, in collaboration with the Pakistan High Commission in Sri Lanka, led a 10-member business delegation to the 3rd Expo Engineering and Healthcare Show in Lahore recently. Spearheaded by the president of the SLBC, Ms. Indra Kaushal Rajapaksa, the delegation joined over 600 delegates from 70 countries at the exposition organized by the Trade Development Authority of Pakistan and the Ministry of Commerce and Export Development Fund of Pakistan, showcasing sectors such as agriculture, automotive, pharmaceuticals and more. That ends development news. Moving on with sports news. Bringing together cricketing legends from around the world for the first time to Sri Lanka, the Legends Cricket Trophy 2024 is slated to begin on the 8th of March at the Pallekele Stadium in Kandy. Played over 14 days, 7 teams encompassing retired cricketers will wield their willows to vie for the trophy after a highly successful debut tournament held in Delhi last year. Founded by LCT T20 League Private Limited, legends from Pakistan, India, West Indies, Australia, England, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Afghanistan will be drafted into the teams. This was mentioned at the drafting of the players into the 7 teams and unveiling of the trophy jersey, which took place at the Hilton Colombo recently. Sanath Jayasuriya, Thisara Pereira, Yuvraj Singh, Chris Gale, Suresh Raina, Ross Taylor, Shahid Afridi and Dwayne Bravo are some of the players drafted into the teams. That came to you in sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීත හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Bioextracts, a leading wellness and healthcare company in Sri Lanka, has been honoured with the coveted Most Innovative Product Award in the Healthy Lifestyle category at Products Pro 24 held in Moscow, Russia. The recognition bestowed upon their Baraka brand underscores Bioextract's position as a premier exporter of top-quality wellness products. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීත හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And on economic news, Interface Tourism, a leading marketing and communications agency in tourism, announced the launch of a groundbreaking wellness campaign to promote Sri Lanka targeted at the French and German markets. This initiative, commissioned by the European Union delegation with the support of Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau, is a part of Sri Lanka's strategic effort to position itself as a premier wellness destination in Asia. That was economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Kalutara, Gaul, Matara and Ratnapura districts in the evening or night. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere. Fairly strong winds, about 30 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times in the eastern slopes of the Central Hills and in the north-central, northwestern, Uva, southern and eastern provinces and in the Matale and Kandy districts. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western and Sabaragama provinces during the morning. That was the weather report, and now to this news broadcast, the main points once again. Sri Lanka and Iran agree to further enhance bilateral ties in multiple areas. A composite draft bill will be prepared on child rights. Feasible areas to develop Sri Lanka's offshore wind potential are identified. The Indian Ocean Rim Association Day 2024 will be held in Sri Lanka. The Cabinet green lights the use of English language in certain courts of the island. And on international news, the US call for temporary ceasefire in UN text. And on sports news, cricket, the Legends Cricket Trophy 2024 is to be held in Sri Lanka. That ends this news broadcast, and now it's back to Chandima Veerakon as always on a Tuesday night. Back to you, Chandima.